Thank you for joining us today. Preventing fraud is critical to protecting the integrity and reputation of the MasterCard brand and payment system. For this reason, MasterCard partners with acquirers to help identify and mitigate fraudulent activity. The Global Merchant Audit Program, also known as GMAP, is one of the tools used to achieve this. This GMAP education module will provide you with an overview of the program, will walk you through a fraud case study, and conclude with a short quiz to test your knowledge. The Global Merchant Audit Program, GMAP, is a compliance program that identifies merchants that meet or exceed an established level of fraud in any 1 month based on program criteria. This program is part of a suite of MasterCard tools designed to reduce issuer and acquirer losses. The purpose of the program is to preserve the integrity of the MasterCard brand, to inform acquirers of merchants identified in the program, to monitor a merchant's progress toward reducing fraud, and to communicate viable fraud tools and solutions. To illustrate the type of situation that could lead to a GMAP identification, we will use the story of AVS Furniture. Recently, Frank Fraudster went shopping at AVS Furniture. Frank was in the store for one purpose: to commit fraud using his counterfeit MasterCard card. When it came time for Frank to pay for the beautiful $6,000 sofa that he picked out, he watched carefully as the salesperson took the card, swiped it, and asked him to sign the receipt. The store didn't check to see if the information on the card matched the information that appeared on the read and display terminal, and the store did not request a CVC2 response code.
Thank you so much. I was very pleased with the service I received here.
You're welcome, sir.
I have a new house that I need to furnish. I'll definitely come back.
We look forward to seeing you again, and we appreciate your business.
The story of AVS Furniture continues. When Frank left the store with his new furniture, he immediately reached for his phone to call his good friend Robert Robber to tell him about this great opportunity for fraud. A week later, the owner of AVS Furniture discovered that she had accepted 10 counterfeit credit card transactions that accounted for $60,000 in fraud. GMAP uses a rolling 6 months of fraud transaction data. A merchant location is classified in one of the following GMAP tiers when it meets or exceeds Tier 1, 2, or 3 criteria in any 1 month. Merchants identified in Tier 1 have a minimum of 3 fraudulent transactions totaling $3,000 or more and a fraud-to-sales ratio of 3 to 4.99%. Merchants identified in Tier 2 have a minimum of 4 fraudulent transactions totaling $4,000 or more and a fraud-to-sales ratio of 5 to 7.99%. Merchants identified in Tier 3 have a minimum of 5 fraudulent transactions totaling $5,000 or more and a fraud-to-sales ratio of 8% or greater. If a merchant location is identified in multiple tiers during any rolling 6-month period, GMAP will use the highest tier for the merchant identification. GMAP identifications are provided for informational purposes. A response is necessary if MasterCard initiates a Tier 3 special merchant audit. GMAP Tier 1, 2, and 3 merchant identifications are disclosed to acquirers in the Merchant Online Status Tracking Tool, also known as MOST. All MasterCard acquirers are required to obtain access to the MOST tool through the MasterCard Connect store. MasterCard recommends that acquirers log into MOST each month to view merchants identified in GMAP. It is recommended that the acquirer evaluate the fraud control measures and training procedures of identified merchants in order to mitigate fraudulent activity in the future. Should MasterCard initiate a Tier 3 special merchant audit, the acquirer must respond through MOST by completing and submitting the Special Merchant Audit Questionnaire within 30 days. When needed, the acquirer can correspond with MasterCard through the correspondence window. Should the acquirer terminate the merchant relationship, the acquirer must update most with the applicable termination status code. Let's return to our case study of AVS Furniture. As a result of the fraud perpetrated by Frank Fraudster, AVS Furniture exceeds GMAP Tier 3 thresholds and appears in most.
Wow, look at AVS Furniture. They had $60,000 in fraud reported last month. That's nearly 33% of their sales volume. That's unusually high for a furniture store. Let's initiate an audit so that we can work with ABC Bank to determine exactly what's going on here.
We just received notification from MasterCard that a GMAP Tier 3 special merchant audit has been initiated for AVS Furniture. We need to conduct an investigation to find out what is causing the high fraud. Let's train the merchant and implement fraud controls. Then we can get back to MasterCard with detailed answers for the audit questionnaire. We have 30 days to get this completed. We'd better get moving on this.
MasterCard staff reviews special merchant audit questionnaires to try to determine the root cause of the fraud and what specific controls could be implemented to mitigate fraudulent activity in the future. A merchant may be excluded from the Tier 3 special merchant audit based on the information provided by the acquirer via the questionnaire. For example, in the event that fraud already has been significantly mitigated and enhanced controls are put in place, MasterCard may exclude the merchant from the audit. If MasterCard determines the information provided by the acquirer is not sufficient to exclude the merchant from an audit, MasterCard may request additional information and ask the acquirer to implement fraud control measures via a fraud control action plan. For example, if MasterCard learns that the same card account was used to process multiple fraudulent transactions within a 24-hour period, MasterCard will recommend a fraud control action plan to implement velocity monitoring controls in order to limit the number of transactions processed on a single card account each day. Lastly, based on the results of the audit, MasterCard may publish the merchant name in a global security bulletin. For example, if an acquirer does not respond to a Tier 3 special merchant audit within the specified timeframes, or the merchant and/or acquirer are not taking steps to mitigate fraudulent activity, the merchant may be placed on a global security bulletin. In that case, the acquirer must accept chargeback liability under Chargeback Reason Code 4849, questionable merchant activity, for a period of at least 6 months. At MasterCard's discretion, the chargeback liability period may be extended to 12 months. 1 week has passed. Let's see what's happening with AVS Furniture and ABC Bank.
We just received the AVS Furniture questionnaire from ABC Bank. It seems like AVS Furniture was scammed into accepting counterfeit cards, and they didn't have the proper fraud measures in place at the time. According to ABC Bank, AVS has been trained on using read and display terminals, code 10 calls, requesting CBC2 and AVS checks. They've agreed to a fraud control action plan to add velocity monitoring next week. Looks like AVS Furniture hasn't experienced subsequent fraud either. Let's exclude this merchant from the GMAP audit. I'm glad we were able to work with ABC Bank to reduce the merchant's fraud.
AVS Furniture was a merchant that suffered from excessive levels of fraud. Because their acquiring bank took the necessary steps to ensure the merchant received additional training and implemented relevant fraud control measures, the merchant now operates in a more safe and secure way and are in compliance with MasterCard standards. As a quick recap, please answer each question to the best of your ability, based on the information that has been provided in the preceding slides. Thank you for your time and attention today. Congratulations on completing this education module.